We're back. We have some people transferring over from the previous session into this one and letting people know about that too. So I'm really excited for this chat, and hopefully it'll go smoothly like the last one, but we'll cross each bridge as it comes to it. So let's get ourselves started. So we're back again for session 2 of #EEConquest, and we had an amazing chat in the last one, and it's kind of feeding through into this conversation too, all about the future of education. We actually have 3 people from near where I'm from, and we have Shannon coming in from America, so we're hoping that she might be a translator. She might be people understand what we are, so I'm really excited for this chat today. Just a little reminder, people you're tuning in and haven't found out about Empathetic Educators yet. For this daily experience, there'll be 12 hours of learning, and it's all in the guide. So you can find the guide bit.ly/EEConquest guide, and that's got all little missions for you to complete and little fun things throughout the day. And you can also find out about these sessions at bit.ly/EEConquest 2021. We're all going to be recorded and all put in that session as well too. And as part of this session, I really wanted to, it's a completely free event, but I wanted to try and raise money for Youthline in New Zealand, which is about keeping people mentally healthy, and you can find out about that at bit.ly/EEYouthline. I would really appreciate if people could donate or share it in their communities as well. So that's us. That's the background to everything, and I'm just really excited to get everyone on the screen. So let's get our show on the road. Welcome.
Hello. So excited to be here. Session 2. Give us a shout out where you're from in the chat. Can't wait to connect.
Let us know. Yeah, the chat's on fire again. Loving the fire analogy. Actually, it's went through the different parts. So and then Karen said #Irish translation. So yeah.
Oh god.
It'll be good. I can't wait. Yeah. So we'll let us know a little bit about your fires, a little bit about what gets you excited, and we'll start with Danielle. So yeah, where are you from? Let us know a bit about you.
Hello, I'm Danielle McKernan, and I'm from the north of Ireland, and I work in secondary school, so that's children aged 11 to 18, and I'm the digital learning lead there, and really looking forward to the session and connecting with everyone.
Beautiful.
Shall I show you my flame?
Yeah, go ahead. You got your little flame.
Okay, so here is my flame. Hopefully, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Beautiful. There we go. Okay, so all my flame, I have encouragement, because in my role as a digital learning lead, I've had to give a lot of encouragement this year to members of staff as they were upskilling, and I also have on there empowerment, because while I deliver training as a Google trainer, it's also very important to make sure that staff have the skills themselves to go forward. So I always want staff to feel that they can do it themselves after I leave the room. And then finally on my flame, I've also got respect, because it's important now, especially we've been through COVID, we know all the different circumstances everybody's working in. So it's respecting everybody and how they're keeping.
Beautiful. Love it. And thank you for completing your flame. I love the colors that you put through it. Beautiful.
I had to procreate.
Pretty. And Shannon, let us know a little bit about you, where you're from, what you're at, what fuels your flame. Oh, go ahead.
That was an homage to Bonnie, because she always starts things muted. So I wanted to be like her. I want to be like Bonnie every single day. I'm Shannon, not from Ireland. I'm actually from Visalia, California, which is right smack in the middle of California. Farmland, actually. Secondary English teacher, as well as technology coach. And guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to be here today. I am stoked. The whole build up for this has been awesome. And Naomi, you are my spirit animal. So glad I can make that public. Here is my flame. I also did mine on my iPad. So I have words like connection. I have words like innovation, growth, inquiry. I'm a super inquisitive human. I feel like life, is built around questioning. And so that is kind of my philosophy, as well as I love to connect with others. Relationships are key and at the heart of my flame, in addition to creativity. And I also put this heart, and you can kind of see there's a trail to the world and then out to another heart. I love that I have the opportunity every single day to connect with people all over the world and just be real and share my heart with everybody. So excited to see you all and be on this panel with you. Awesome Irish people, Irish men. Is that how it works? And then also all you awesome people in the chat.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, and I think it's like, yeah, it's good to have like different perspectives around the world too, and different flames as well. So really, really cool. And Evan, what's the crack? What's going on?
Yeah, what's the crack? CRAIC, just in case anyone's thinking there's an Irish word that means any fun. How's it going, everybody? My name's Evan Devaney. I am a science and ICT teacher based in Donegal, which is in the northwest of Ireland. I'm actually only like 10-minute drive from where Naomi's originally from. Yeah. So it's very, very weird to hear all Irish accents here. And Danielle, you're not too far away either. So Shannon, you're a bit further away, but not too far. So I'm a science and ICT teacher. I'm also a Google certified trainer as of last year. And I just want to shout out to Adam and Leslie and Naomi, because you all helped me for my innovator application last year. I didn't get through to it, but I'm still with it. I'm still trying to get there. But I'm going to show you my flame, and it's not as fancy as the other flames, but it's definitely a very workable looking flame.
Oh, good.
But straight in the middle, you got your core values. So I think your core values basically linked to everything that you do. So basically who you are, what you stand for. I've actually got rest in there too, because I think because of COVID, I think teachers, we really do need a rest and recovery, because if you don't rest and recover, you're not going to go anywhere, I suppose. I've got learning in there, I've got innovation, I've got travel. I think Shannon might have copied mine a little bit, because I've also got footsteps going to the planet. I don't know if I copied you, you copied me. And I've got travel in there, innovation, and I've even got the world up here, but then I've kind of got further above than that. We can keep reaching, so I've got like a purple star at the very top. And if you want to keep going further and further and further, you can keep the sky as a limit, or there is no limit, I suppose. So yeah, that's my flame, and it's just ever burning all the time, and keep going as much as we can.
Beautiful. I love like little connections between it too. It's like it's just really nice to be able to maybe Shannon did copy, maybe like over in California, maybe she did, maybe she
I don't want to accuse anybody, but I'm just saying.
I mean, if we're being honest, and anybody in this panel right now stands out as unique, I think I'm the one that wins that one. So
and then Dr. Harvey said surely it would be a barium ion flame. And is that a science?
Well,
a science?
I have some green on the character, but probably not on the flame. I might just add that now if you want me to add the green on the flame.
For all those science people out there, didn't really get the joke, but I'm pretty sure it's a funny one for science people. He's buzzing. So that's before we get let's go on to the question before we get too caught up and getting to know each other. But yeah, that's really good as well. So thank you for the chat, and being part of all that as well. It's really cool. And so the first one we're going to talk about is what was one big change in your practice and education you experienced this past year, you want to keep building on as well. So what have you experienced? We've had lots of different ups and downs, lots of different things. I just realized experience is spelled wrong, so sorry for the teachers out there who have experience and say about like spellings, but sorry about that. But Shannon, what do you think about what have you learned this year?
I think, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my student capabilities, I learned about my colleagues. But I think most of all, what I am taking away from this year, there were so many things. We were talking before, Evan mentioned he went through a bunch of things in his head, and I kind of went through that same process. I might have copied him. And I kind of arrived at this. I found as an educator, I definitely over scaffolded prior to this year. And I feel like that was largely because I needed to maintain an element of control, but also I didn't want to leave any of my students like out, without any support. What I was doing, unfortunately, is I was really just kind of being the person that's constructing the knowledge and giving it to the students, rather than inviting them to be co-creators of knowledge with me. And so what I really tried this year, a big change that I implemented, was this idea of really kind of giving minimal, when we get to projects and such, minimal instruction. And then I would encourage them to really show their learning, exemplify their learning in a creative way that was meaningful to them. And once I did that, the first time it was a little scary. My kids were a little like, wait, what's going on? But I did find that they were able to really push their boundaries. And I think that's what our goal as educators, is to really get students to push themselves. by the end of it, they were thanking me for the opportunity to kind of show and exemplify their learning in a way that was meaningful to them. So I think that's the biggest change I learned.
I think like looking inwards as well, like that kind of thing about like understanding where you were before and where you are going forward. I think that's like, it doesn't have to be big changes where we all like use technology and all the things. Actually, like some of the best changes are the little, like the smaller things and become big changes in your practice too. Because like that scaffolding part is a really big part in getting them to like have that voice in that space too. So so any connections to that, Evan, or like what have you what is your practice, how has that changed?
I'm kind of very similar, I suppose, to Shannon in that sense, and it's only really since COVID hit. And I remember in Ireland, it was the 12th of March 2020, there was an announcement that day, and that was it. We were closed for 2 weeks at the start, and then it was further than 2 weeks. But I suppose in my own teaching, I kind of had myself trained and my own students trained that, that I was the constructor of the knowledge, that I was the one giving you the knowledge. And I suppose I felt like I had to give them the knowledge, and I suppose the kids felt that they relied on me for the knowledge too. So when we were during that lockdown and we were locked down, and I was giving the students work, and what I noticed was, when I'm in class and I'm asking questions, students would interact and engage. But I actually didn't even realize until then we had Google Meet and we were all live, and it was only my face, no one showing any other faces. But very little kids were actually engaging, even the kids who normally would engage. And I kind of thought, hang on a second, let's just reflect on this. And then I kind of reflected and thought, in our class, it's me who talks all the time, most of the time. And it's kind of that fear factor. It's like, I don't want to give the kids the freedom because they won't get it the way I want them to get it. So I suppose for me, my biggest takeaway this year was encouraging and empowering students to find their voice and find their agency within the class, to make it their own. And I kind of really put a step back this year. And what I really noticed is that, and I love a quote from Stephen Hawking, says that the quiet people have the loudest minds. And I used different apps like Flipgrid for different science experiments and stuff, and kind of really took a big step back. And some of the submissions and some of the learnings, I think I learned so much more this year from them than me normally standing at the top of the room and saying, okay, guys, we're going to do this. So, and it was kind of scary because as a teacher, you kind of want to be in control. You kind of want to say, okay, today we're doing this, tomorrow we're doing this. And I kind of left it up to them and said, well, guys, what way do you want to do this? And then during lockdown too, I kind of did more about universal design for learning. So instead of an assignment as such, I had one student that asked me, sir, can I make a video instead? And I was there going, no. You have to decide. And I kind of thought, hang on, wait a minute. He's engaging with you here, okay? And I just threw it out to them. I said, you know what, guys, do whatever way you want to do it. And the way that it was coming back was just amazing. Like, and I really changed my practice now going forward, seeing the kids again. And now they've either found their voice in the class or they found it digitally in Google Classroom. And it really has taken me away from the center of the room completely, where I am just a bystander in the room. I'm there for help or support. But if I'm not there in a particular day or I'm not engaged in their conversation, they don't need me as such. And that has been a massive takeaway for me this year.
I think you say like you actually said it really quietly, like almost like as a little thing, but you said he's engaging with me here. And I think that's the part of it is like what, like sometimes we can be like this like this is the way it has to be, and then but it's actually what are they giving us in that voice? He's engaging with me, as in like he's sharing something that he wants to do. He's sharing something that, and actually whispered it, and I was like that's it. Like that's the part is like that's like the part is like what we're hoping to be. And I think there's like things about like what way changing the script, as in like we should be speaking, they should be speaking, but actually it's like coming together and speaking together. So sometimes we do have to speak. Sometimes like that's what I'm exactly the same. Is like I've kind of thought point about where do I fit in like the new way we're thinking, and sometimes I do have to share that knowledge and like and transfer that over to them, but sometimes they're sharing the knowledge and transferring it over to me, and that constant connection, that constant communication. So yeah, really connecting. As someone said, use your twinning. Are you just copying each other for the? Is that going to be the whole way through the session, or?
We've already done this before.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah, Danielle, how's your challenges been? Have you connected to this, or other ways?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that Shannon and Evan have said. I've seen the same things in my own classroom. When we were setting out our Google Classrooms, we wanted to allow flexibility for the pupils to be able to learn at a time that suited them. So really it changed the way that I was delivering the lessons, in that very often I had all of the material there in advance, and the pupils were able to move through it at their own pace. They were coming back to me later to ask questions, and I felt they were much more engaged then in the learning, and really think that's something to keep going forward. And just like you've said, the power of video. I mean, we knew that video was there, we knew all these tools existed, but only when we started using them do we really appreciate them, and now we know that they're worth putting time into. So going forward, absolutely continuing with flipped learning and embedding that into practice entirely, so that we can look at, for example, some of those mastery learning models and really implementing those now going forward. As well, what I really liked this year was the change in assessment. Basically, just less emphasis on grades and more about comment-only marking, and more about the pupil and bringing the pupil along from where they were at that particular time, and a more individualized approach. And then what we saw was the pupils then more engaged and more interested in their own learning, and them coming to me directly in the private messaging of Google Classroom and having this lovely learning dialogue in there. You know, you don't get that in the classroom. And really, I found that some of my introverted pupils, just as you said, Evan, really thrived in that environment. And I mean, in school, I was quite quiet myself. So I always thought that before this, I was conscious of the quiet child and always went down and beside them and listened to them and whispered in their ears, everything okay, how you getting on? But you know what? I wasn't doing it enough, and I wasn't really doing it. I was just really, you know, going through the motions. And now they do have that voice. And to me, that's just something to keep going forward. And it's just all because of that digital tool being there. And as well, digital has really showed us the power of the instant feedback, using tools like Jamboard, where you could give live feedback there and then in the moment and hear from everyone simultaneously at the same time. So you're pushing for equal engagement. You couldn't just, the pupils can't sit back, not be included. So even though cameras were off, for example, in synchronous live lessons, didn't matter. They still were engaging. And, you know, I even found that sometimes you got much more thoughtful responses from the pupils, because they didn't have to worry about a camera being on. They weren't looking at themselves and how they were looking. There was less of a distraction to them. They were actually thinking about the learning. And I actually found that there were higher learning outcomes from some pupils as a result. So absolutely going forward, looking at personalised, flexible learning paths, that one size fits all, that lecture style in the classroom needs just to be removed. And the removal of grades and comment only marking was a godsend. The exam boards cancelling exams was fantastic. You know, it just took the pressure off entirely. We weren't working to those assessments.
And I think, like you're saying about the learning dialogue, like it's so important for like that part of it. But it's also then, what does the wider system look like? Because like obviously like we know like this is what's happening, but then how are we changing the system? Because if they need grades to get through to the system, then what does the actual system look like for them to actually work with it? So it's even bigger challenge in that space too. But I totally agree with like the actual learning dialogue part is like the quiet learners. Are they quiet, or are they just, do they engage differently? So like what Evan was saying is like he's engaging with me. So how do they actually engage, and what do they do in that space too? So yeah, it's really, really important.
I think even in a digital point of view, it's a safe place for that relationship to build. Whereas if your relationship might not build in a physical classroom environment, if you've got 24 kids and you might have very, very quiet students in there, at least that digital space is that space for them to develop that relationship with you. And even if they don't want to, because there's going to be other students in there who are more overpowering, or they're going to have more opinionated opinions on different things and different views and different things. And it can be quite intimidating, especially for teenagers in different year groups. But that's what I found as well. It was just that safe little space for them to come. The private comment section in Google Classroom and the flip grids for reflections was just unbelievable, especially for science experiments. I got them all to do science experiments each. It was part of their continuous assessments. And that's where we're kind of moving away, Danielle, too, in our system here, where it's for the classroom-based assessment, it's more like they have to do a science experiment of their own choice. They have to design it themselves and investigate themselves, but they're not given a numerical value as a grade. They're given a descriptor. So we're kind of moving away, trying to move away. But I think society still demands what percentage that I get, what percent, and the kids always want percentages. But it was very interesting to see, say, guys, you're not going to get percentages for this, but it's not just your experiment, it's your reflections. And some of the reflections that come back, it can be very difficult, even for us. If I ask you, right, I want to sit down now for 3-4 minutes to reflect on a question, it's quite tough to write down something. Whereas if you're on a video with someone, or you just record yourself and just let the look of the Irish, I mean, I could talk for Ireland, so it just keeps going out. But like, it's much easier for quieter kids to do that too, in a sense. But I definitely agree to say that I think you're dead right, Naomi. It's a massive conversation we have to have, a bigger conversation. But in hindsight, I'm actually a little bit jealous of some of the kids nowadays, because they have gone through perseverance, through this pandemic. We've never had a pandemic. We never experienced that when we were in school. So for them to do this at home, with probably lack of support at home sometimes, maybe mum and dad were working, or parent or guardians were working, loads of different circumstances, and they've actually learned at home and then come back into school. Like we've never had that experience as a globe, or as a country as such. So I think the skills that they have learned is really going to benefit them in years to come.
And I think that's part of the conversation about the future of education, is like, what have they lost? Actually, what have they gained from like what they've experienced into? And I think Lauren says about creating a culture that transcends the idea of we are all teachers and learners in the room as critical teacher, and like that we are all in that together. Like, I think that's what learners have seen us do as well, is like we've been learners in front of them, like trying to navigate this space and trying to understand this space, and that's been a really cool space as well to be in. And I think so we'll go to I know I'm going to have trouble with this today. I'm going to have to keep moving the conversation forward whenever I want to keep talking about all the different things. So I'm going to have to just do it. And again, I'm going to have to keep on getting people back onto the show to talk more about the individual things. But so we're going to go through what was one challenge you see in education. And it kind of does relate back to like that kind of conversation that they do weave together. But more about like the takeaway of like how are you trying to overcome it, and what are you moving forward with too. So Danielle, we'll start with you, and then we'll move back around the ways. I'm just getting a charger.
Yeah. So I think back to the idea of assessment. So we've really decided, we've looked more deeply at assessment in our school, and we're looking, going forward, what we want to do with it. And we've appreciated that we need to, alongside the content, also look at assessing skills and embedding skills. So that's something that we really want to look at. And for assessment, looking at opportunities to assess the application, having open book exams, open book tests. It's not just about content recall, looking at those higher order skills and blooms. So really that's our focus this year, looking at that, and really looking at how we can mix the traditional with the progressive types of education and find that middle ground whereby we're bringing that both together, bringing in all of those collaborative skills together for the pupils to be able to work together, because we know all the benefits that brings. And the challenge is, though, with everything you do have to assess. So we're researching at the minute, how do you assess creativity? How do you assess if people's increased ability to work collaboratively in groups? So if we are going to implement these changes and value them, we have to make sure that they're working, and we have to monitor that what we're doing is working effectively. So that's what we're researching at the minute. So if anybody's any ideas on how you measure creativity, or any pointers to studies on that, we've seen a few of the Torrens, we've seen a few out there, but that's where we are now working on.
Cool. And I think that's such a big part of it, is like, how can we assess it? But actually, because I think, how can we say, we probably say we don't want to assess it, but actually we do. We have to know like what impact we're having on the learners, and we have to know that we are like transferring that knowledge and those skills, but it's what does it actually look like. And Evan, what do you
I think there's been a lot of challenges, I think, with especially online learning, in a sense. It's kind of brought up more challenges and everything. And the biggest one for me is probably the formative assessment, and how do you give feedback and feed forward to the students. So different types of apps, like the minute that I'd be using, say, Screencastify, where you record a quick little video of the students' work and send it straight back to them, rather than reading text. Another really good one is Mote too. I think someone said it in the chat box as well. It's really good formative feedback. But again, I suppose the whole purpose of assessment is assessing them on their learning and on their journey. And I suppose their students are on different stages of their learning, and they are different pathways. But at the end of your day, they will set an assessment, and that's kind of a very tricky one in a sense, because you are trying to assess their creativity, you're trying to assess everything. And what I often find in my students is, sometimes if we're doing a project or we're doing something collaborative, they'll ask, "Sir, how much is this worth?" And they want a numerical value on it, and say, "Well, sir, if I work on my own on this project, am I going to be deducted any marks?" And I'm thinking, don't be thinking like that. Like that's not where we're going with this. But there's a society pressure there. It's coming from parents as well, from their education. It's coming from the media. I know in Ireland here we've got the Leaving Cert, and the night before the Leaving Cert, it'll be on the news, and then the first day of the Leaving Cert exams, they'll tell you what was on English paper 1 or English paper 2, whatever. So there's still a high quality exam at the end, terminal exam. After 2 years of your final study, you sit that assessment. But I suppose the biggest challenge, though, in my day-to-day teaching is trying to say to the kids and empower the kids that, listen, it's okay to fail. It's not always about getting the right answer. And sometimes I fail in class as well, and I need to learn that as well for my own sake. And a lot of teachers come to me actually and said, Evan, am I doing online learning the right way? And I said, well, there is no right way of doing it. It's whatever way you want to do it and you learn from it yourself. But that's the problem with us as teachers and students as well. They always want the right answer. So especially in terms of science experiments too, if I say, I want you to go investigate something. Okay, sir, what's the hypothesis right? But sir, what's the right answer? I'm thinking, no, go and do it yourself. But I think we need to change this conversation away from perfection. It's progress, not perfection. I don't want you to have the perfect project, the perfect thing. Mr. Venny's giving me 100 out of 100. I'm thinking, no, I'm going to give you 80, say, for instance, but forget about the numerical value. It's your progress that you've done. Look where you're at a month ago. Look where you're at 2 months ago. Look where you're at last year. But the problem is, and as Danielle said as well, it's that terminal exam. How do we translate that learning journey through their whole education into a terminal exam to say to colleges and universities, look at this young student, I've had this student for 6 years. I can tell you the skills they have. I can tell you what they can do, what they need to grow on, and what basic qualities, core values they have. But they're looking at, well, what did they get in the assessment? Did they get an A, B, C, D? And I think that's a massive thing that we need, because if a lot of the jobs out there at the minute require so many skills, so many different types of skills, and different computational thinking skills as well. And I do think that you need to take into consideration that whole process throughout your entire education, not just the terminal exam. And I know Ireland's going under reform at the minute, but any other country out there wants to give any advice or anything, it'll be really appreciated. But yeah, I think it's a massive conversation. But yeah,
I think Jillian summarized it really nicely. She said, I think the transition from content mastery to process mastery happened this year. If anything, students and educators found ways and strategies that worked for them despite the challenges. Yeah. And Shannon, what do you think, reflecting on that like that, and just like in your own challenges, what you see too? Like I seen you pointing, you're like, yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that is so apt, Jillian. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And there's so many good comments going on in the chat about what people are doing to try to change the face of education. But at the end of the day, we can all agree that things need to change, right? And I agree with Danielle and I agree with Evan that really it does need to be that shift to it's a process. Let's go ahead and assess based on progress, because that in and of itself really will promote self-regulation. It'll promote metacognition and self-reflection and all those aspects that are so important to any experience that they're going to have beyond any class, beyond school. And so I just think that's really important. I want to shift it just a little bit though, because I agree with both of them, but I'm going to shift it to, let's talk about adults. Let's talk about the educators. I personally feel like one challenge that we're really trying, we've seen kind of come to light as there needs to be a shift, is in the area of professional development. I know at my site, professional development is scheduled, in the books. You come, the presenters have some sort of idea of like what you need, right, as an educator, and none of it's personalized. We can talk left, right, forward, whatever about the personalization of education for our students, but when it comes to the staff or the colleagues or the educators, it's really one size fits all. And so what I'd like to really see is I'd like to see more choice being integrated into the opportunity of professional development. So whether that be different spaces, like, professional development no longer is a sit and get. It could be a virtual, you guide yourself through your own micro course, or there's a choice board offered, or hey, we're all professionals. Let me go choose what I'd like and give me time to dive in, designated time to dive in by myself, with my professional learning community, with other colleagues, right? Or even so, let's not make it so sit and get. Let's talk about audio spaces. Audio spaces have been fantastic to really build up those opportunities to engage with other educators. And I've learned so much using Twitter spaces, using skilled spaces, right? Voxer is another one that, is great for educators, because the enemy is often time. And so if we can have a space where, like something like Voxer, where the conversation is ongoing and you can add to it when you have the time, I think that that's a really unique way to approach education. I feel like professional development has been taken, the control of it has been taken out of the educator's hand and really just kind of dictated by districts and by administration who aren't actually in the classroom. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I think there's a lot of administrators and district leaders that have great insight, are doing some amazing things. But can you imagine if we just gave an ounce of control back and trusted, educators to figure out what they need to dive into? And for those educators that don't have any idea, designate some leaders at your district or at your school site or whatever it may be to say, hey, come and join me as I investigate X, Y, or Z. And I feel like that needs to shift as well. We've learned that Zoom and Google Meet, Microsoft Teams has allowed the meetings globally, across districts. It has made it so much easier. So let's really take advantage of the learning that we've acquired through this challenging time, and let's implement it. Let's ride that wave rather than just that was then, let's move on.
And I think it does link into what we're talking about, the assessment and the growth mindset of the learners. Actually, we as teachers, this is not what we grew up with. This is not the education system we grew up with, and we didn't learn that way. So what we're actually bringing into the teachers and what we're bringing into the learners is really important to actually be able to transfer that to teachers too. And I think I'm hoping that e-conquest is all about, Shannon. That's what I'm hoping, that we can create some PD that's actually some fun, some good things, some choice, some different topics and different things, because I think that I agree. I think both those challenges actually weave together, because what we were trying to get growth mindsets and growth things into the learners, actually that's what we're trying to do for the teachers too. So yeah.
And one last point, and because I know we're on time or whatever, but it's amazing to me also what happens when you allow individuals to break out of their little bubbles, right? I have my own challenges at my site, and as of right now, every single colleague that I'm interacting with, we all have that same challenge, and we're trying to figure out solutions. Why can't I, reach out to Naomi and be like, hey, I know you are passionate about X, and could you share some insight? Or Evan, Danielle, you guys have been giving amazing insight, right? Why are we limiting it to just our site? Imagine if you guys came and did a PD for our teachers, right? That cross global collaborative, connection-based PD really has the capacity to change the world of education, not just our little worlds of education.
My fire, I might share my fire yet, but my fire is buzzing at the minute, because that's exactly what I'm hoping for, is that globalness, because perspectives from each other, from learning, oh, that works for you. How does that look like in my space? What works for me? And that's why I'm happy to get people from Ireland on board and people from America on board, and because it's helping me see different places too. So yeah, it's such an important part.
It's interesting to hear that the way that probably PD is organized differently in different countries, because it would be very different here, Shannon, than it would be there. Oh. It probably is not as restrictive as such. I mean, we would probably bring in people from different schools and connect we've got Donegal ETB, so we're a network of 17 schools. So you might bring people. So I've gone to some of their schools, they've come to some of ours. But I think the biggest learning for me has probably been Twitter. Just connecting with teachers internationally. And someone said this to me recently too, is, teacher learning, if your teachers aren't learning, how do you expect your students to learn as well? And I think that's really important, where teacher learning has to be at the center as well as student learning, because I think all this time we are in this conversation focusing so much on student learning, but we have to recognize too, especially during the pandemic, the amount of learning that we have come through since 2020, and the amount of online space, and I've learned so much, and we're still continuously learning and reflecting on that. And, that's our own journeys. And yes, we will make mistakes, but I do think that allowing us to make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and share those mistakes online. Say if I wanted, I think this quest thing is an absolutely brilliant idea. It kind of reminds me of Super Mario, because I was addicted to Super Mario when I was younger.
A game, I know, I love it.
I know, I love it. But it's taken that, and I'm thinking, do you know what? Actually, that is such a fun way of doing something. Fun way of respinning things. And well done to Naomi for that. But those simple ideas, and it's something just to think about, something outside the box, connecting with I know 2 people from Ireland but 1 from America. So if I was sitting in school, it's my colleagues next door. you know, or the colleagues in school down the road, or there's colleagues in the next county or something. So it's just having that PD space. But what I find is, as basically what you're saying is the wave, it's the informal after the formal as such.
Yes.
To put as much emphasis on that informal as well. Listen, it's not just that session I went to, it's 1 week after that, 2 weeks after that, how I'm keep going, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think, like Keisha said, is like peer-to-peer learning is so powerful for teachers and students. We're all learners, and it is like that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping that I'm like after this, like empathetic educators, like that, like you know, like that, those like connection pieces, and like what we're doing, like the 3 C's, and like all those different like spaces. Like it's so important to like have those. It was the same conversation in the previous, like those connections are what's going to help us move forward for the learners and then for us too. So, oh, did we just complete a second session and it actually went okay?
We did. Bravo.
with really good, really great chat is on fire as well as like connecting to all these like what we're talking about too. So really like you say, like I said, the where can people find you? Because actually I'll take this off so that people can see all of your lovely names as well. So just in case we are like connecting and that kind of thing, but let us know just in the last couple of minutes where people can find you and what you're doing in your little space in the world. Shannon, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So right here is my Twitter handle, @smore_teach. You can find me there. I would love to connect. I'm one of those people that, though, just fair warning, if I find something in you that inspires me or that I see I'm lacking, I'm going to absolutely message you and you're going to be my friend. So I think Naomi knows that because I kind of did that to her. So yeah, let's connect. I'm also on Instagram, aka.smore.
Cool. And Evan, let us know.
Perfect. This is mine down here, EOW. So I'm on Twitter as well, and kind of similar to that. Like if I like something that you're doing, I will hound you. And I don't know if Adam Hill's here, but I kind of messaged him quite a few times about things like, I like what you're doing. I want to know what that's about. So, but yeah, again, just link, connect, send a message over and back, and it'd be great to get to know people there.
Beautiful. And Danielle?
Yeah, I'm Academy Danielle Academy because that's the name of the school I teach in, so that's where that came from. Yes, I'd love to connect with everyone. Basically, I'm a bit of a magpie on Twitter, so I'm basically out there grabbing all of your ideas, and hopefully I can try to put some of my own insights out there. But really, I find that all the best people are on Twitter, and that's what I'm there for. But I'd love to connect with you all, and Shannon and Evan, it's just wonderful to meet you both because I've followed you so closely on Twitter, so it's great to actually share a space with you now.
So we're going to have a little smile and a little photograph, and for our chat, if people are on the chat, smile as well. You might not be on the screen, but you smile too. Thank you so much for being part of it, and I'm just so excited to it'll all be on the people are catching up, or if you want to find out more about the sessions, it's all on bit.ly/EEConquest 2021. And like I said, we are supporting Youthline, so if you really enjoyed the show or you really think that you got takeaways, it's all free, but we would love to have some donations and things like that, or just sharing into your community. The link bit.ly/EEYouthline to get some support in that space too. If you like the show and you got some takeaways from it, there's going to be lots more empathetic educators going on YouTube, so you can subscribe, you can let us know, and find out more about me at those links as well. Next, we have coming up in our 12-hour learning day, we have a session with Trevor McKenzie, and you can find that bit.ly/EEConquest03. You can go over there now, and that chat will be starting in a few minutes. But that is the end of our session with this lovely group.
It was great.
Thank
we
you,
didn't
guys.
need too much Irish translation, which is good, Shannon. So that's great.
No, smooth. It was awesome. Loved it.
Well, thank you so much, and I will see you in the chat later, or across the connections as well. Bye.
Thank you.